study Dear Ramatoulaye by Ndubisi Umunnakwe, published in 1990 as a novel that a counter discuss to Marema Ba's So Long and Later. That's how we want to study the novel. It's a response to Marema Ba's So Long and Later. And indeed, it is a male's perspective, a male's response to the issues, or a male writer's response to the issues raised, the gender issues raised by Marema Ba in So Long and Later. In writing the novel, the author has taken some liberties, including moving the setting from Senegal to Nigeria and overturning the cultural space to suit the Nigerian cultural space. That's what you need to understand. He has also changed some of the characters' names. Most importantly, the issues that the author raises are in opposition with those that Marema Ba raises in. So just so you know, the author is not favorably disposed to Ramatoulaye in his reportage. She is not portrayed in good light in this novel. Ramatoulaye is not portrayed in good light in this novel. Indeed, all that Umunnakwe does is to counter the issues raised by Ramatoulaye up to the point of labeling her a liar. So if we are going to be detailed in our discussion of the novel, we are going to see, because we have also been detailed in discussing So Long and Later, we're going to see how debunks the issues that Ramatoulaye talked about in So Long and Later. So this novel promotes patriarchy. That's one thing I noticed. This novel promotes patriarchy. And in some cases, we can find in the language texture the stereotyping of women. You can find in the linguistic texture of the text the stereotyping of women. For instance, the writer says, remember that the narrator of this novel, who counters Ramatoulaye, is by name Andrew. So Andrew is writing to Ramatoulaye. And Andrew is the brother to Model 4, who in this novel is mostly known as Jude. The name Jude, J-U-D-E, is used to describe Model 4. I think that is because there's a cultural shift because of the spatial shift of the novel from Senegal to Nigeria. So Jude is used to describe Model 4, and Andrew is Jude's elder brother. Okay? And so the religious space is now mostly Christian. Okay? And tradition. So there's Christian religious space, and then we have the traditional religious space. It's kind of normal. So I was talking about a case of stereotyping that is seen in the statement when Andrew says, in our land, it is a strange thing for an old man to be caught wailing openly like a rural woman. Okay, so that's like stereotyping. So it's only the woman that should be openly. The artistic motivation for this letter is problematic because Ramatoulaye did not address his letter to the writer, Andrew. Okay? The narrator says, but on first going through your letter, a copy of which Aissatou sent to Miriam, I caught tears dropping from my eyes. So he must have seen the letter that Ramatoulaye wrote to Aissatou through Miriam, who saw a copy of the letter through Aissatou. Note also that in this novel, for cultural change, for cultural purposes, because of the shift in scene and the need to situate the novel in the Igbo culture and its tradition, okay, and its post-coloniality, Umunnakwe assigns another identity to Ramatoulaye, and her name is Aswanuka. Her name is Aswanuka. It is spelled A-Z-U-A-N-U-K-A. Aswanuka. He says that is her popular name. But other people will just know her as Ramatoulaye, but in the village, around the people, our popular name is what? Aswanuka. In this novel, Model 4 is now called Jude Model 4. In Dear Ramatoulaye by Ndubisi Umunnakwe, Model 4 is now referred to as Jude Model 4. So the tendency to label the woman murderer of her husband, her late husband, is depicted in Elder Eru. I have Elder Eru is spelled E-R-U. In Elder Eru accusing Aswanuka of killing her husband, Jude Model 4. So, note that Umunnakwe's Dear Ramatoulaye is set in a predominantly Christian community. In in Igbo land. It is set in a predominantly Christian community in Igbo land, where traditional patriarchal values clash with modern Christian ones. So it's a post-colonial society. That's what we're talking about. It's a post-colonial society. I see this statement as hate speech, and I noted it in the novel when the narrator says, referring to Ramatoulaye, "But since you refused to die and join your husband, whom you killed." All right, so in the novel, it will give you instances of how he believes that it is Ramatoulaye that actually murdered the husband. Okay, you get to see where he says that the husband did not even want to take a second wife, but it was because of her attitude that forced the husband to take a second wife so that he would not die young. Things like that. So in the funeral speech, Jude is depicted as a self-made man. He is actually rich, well-educated and rich, but he's a self-made man. That is to counter the fact that it was Ramatoulaye that joined hands to make Jude who Jude is. Like the joint account issue, okay, and growing together as husband and wife. So the idea in the novel is that Ramatoulaye made Jude a well-made man. So, and in fact, there's a point where Ramatoulaye is called a gold digger because he went to Jude because of what Jude has. Okay? Because she went to Jude because of what Jude has and not out of love, which is the natural link that Ramatoulaye talked about. That Ramamba talks about in So Long a Letter. It should be the natural link. In the funeral speech, Jude is depicted as a self-made man. Note that. Dear Ramatoulaye can be read as a travesty. So if you ask to read Dear Ramatoulaye by Ndubisi Umunnakwe as a travesty of Marama So Long a Letter, you should understand what that means. That means, first of all, you need to understand what travesty means as a genre of literature, as a sub-genre of literature. Because it is marked by distortion. Travesty is marked by distortion. Distortion of fact, distortion of details, to suit a particular purpose in a way that can be humorous. So, Dear Ramatoulaye can be read as a travesty. 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 Go on, you can research more on travesty as a sub-genre of literature. Okay? It's a type of satire, type of poetry, type of literature, which is marked by distortion of details in the original work. It's an imitation, but in this imitation, it is marked by a distortion of the details in the original work. That's what I mean by travesty. So that travesty could be seen in the expression, she gave you the name fall, and fall you did for her. Who could have believed that the mortar could beat the pestle? She gave you the name fall, and fall you did for her. Who could have believed that the mortar could beat the pestle? That means it was Ramatoulaye that gave the husband the name Fall, and then the husband falls for her. And now the mortar has beaten the pestle. that means something unlikely has happened, an ironic situation has taken place. But it's supposed to be the pestle that pounds the mortar, not the other way around. Okay? So in gender relations, we know where the mortar is and we know the pestle is. The situation has changed in this particular case. I'm now in chapter 2. So the narrator is Jude's brother, Andrew. He recalls Jude's life before his death. Recalls Jude's life before his death. He reflects on the International Year of the Family. The role imperative. That is the talk that Jude's brother wants to give at Shooter's Hill. Jude has a son by name Mawdo. M-A-W-D-O. Mawdo. So he narrates how he sees Mawdo on the road that day, that fateful day. That's the day that he learns of Jude's death. It is Mawdo that informs the narrator that the father is dead, so that the narrator delivers his lecture quickly or hurriedly and leaves the venue. He says that it was his worst lecture, because it was not organized after hearing the news of his brother's death. The narrator leaves for Lagos, where Jude has stayed all his life. You know this situation where the educated people move to the city and then be visiting the village from time to time during Christmas. So the same situation here. So he leaves for Lagos with a friend by name Tulas. The friend by name Tulas. 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 Then there's a mention of Daba, D-A-B-A. Daba is the person who informed the narrator at Jude's first house in Lagos that Ramatoulaye is at the new house at the layout. So Daba is Ramatoulaye's daughter. The narrator and Tulas drive to the hospital where they see Jude's corpse. So in this novel, it is the brother that goes to see Jude's corpse and not Ramatoulaye, who reports her own perspective. So in literature, in literary criticism, perspectives do clash. And that's why you need to listen to all the perspectives before you now form an opinion. Each perspective is a discourse on its own. And the discourse is unending. It's never ending. And that's the beauty of literature, because I can come up with my own perspective. You should have your own perspective. And all the perspectives must be respected and put together in order for us to make sense of the whole situation. No one single perspective should be the lord of all perspectives. Otherwise, that would be what? Grand narrative. That would amount to grand narrative. So I've just read a paper where someone is attacking Ndubisi Umunnakwe for writing this kind of novel, all right? And I assume the critic is a lady. It's just a whisper, and be a lady. And be a guy, but I think it's a lady, right? saying that he doesn't even know what it means by gender. That's why he's writing this kind of novel. That it arises, the novel springs from male chauvinism. But you can just be lenient and read it as a male's perspective, whether educated male perspective or not. Then they visit Jude's second house at the preservation layout. There they meet Ramatoulaye hiding in a special room with their mother's relations. They also meet Binatu, who is the co-wife. They also meet Binatu, who is the co-wife. They also meet Binatu, who is the co-wife. Instead of speaking with Ramatoulaye and Binatu, as advised by Tula, the narrator drives home. He wants to first of all organize a decent funeral for Jude. He wants to organize a decent funeral for Jude. Chapter 3. The narrator returns home at 2 a.m. the next day. That's back to the village. The next morning, the narrator brought the news of Jude's death to the village elders, who set up committees to organize Jude's burial. A team of villagers is sent to Lagos to escort Ramatoulaye and Binatu home for the safety of Jude's properties. Binatu and Ramatoulaye refused to follow them. They only joined the corpse to the village at the point of burial to avoid being questioned. Note, although Jude had a lot of money, he built no house at home and kept no property. And Andrew says that this was the design of Ramatoulaye, and that Ramatoulaye wanted to bury Jude at the Central Cemetery in Lagos instead of taking the corpse home. It is emphasized in the novel that Jude was an important member of society. Andrew reminds Ramatoulaye about the anger of the daughters of the soil against her during the funeral. He calls out her lies about being the one who arranged the funeral. So this is what this novel is all about, countering Ramatoulaye back to back. Ramatoulaye was only worried about the availability of incense and cotton wool. The narrator says that even the wrapper used in covering Jude's body was his wife's home, as Ramatoulaye had refused to come to the village to help in the funeral arrangements. The narrator alleges that Ramatoulaye had sent him packing from Jude's house in Lagos in tragic circumstances because he was falsely accused of molesting Ramatoulaye's child. The narrator reports how Ramatoulaye tried to stop his marriage by writing to his fiancée, Miriam, to discourage her from entering the marriage with him. So that is the Miriam that is mentioned earlier, who saw the letter that Ramatoulaye wrote to Aisatu, and Aisatu shared the letter with Miriam. And Miriam now shared the letter with Andrew. The narrator describes a marriage with Miriam. He describes it as a happy marriage. And that Miriam has been quite supportive of the narrator. So this is a case of marriage that works. But Ramatoulaye had worked hard to destroy this marriage. He says, she, Miriam, helped me find my feet, get back to school. And although we read at an old age, we got to the top in our respective fields, had good public service records, and are now enjoying our pensions at home, having brought up our 5 children before I embarked on marrying more wives. So this narrator, Andrew, is a polygamist. And has 5 wives, and there's no problem in the house. The narrator states that people attended Jude's funeral because the family is well known. Not necessarily because they want to come and steal from the family, as Ramatoulaye alleges in her letter to Aishatu. So note all these points. It's quite detailed. So if you are asked to counter, to read this novel as a counter discourse to that one, then you know what to do. So the novel consists mostly in the narrator debunking the narratives of Ramatoulaye in So Long a Letter. The novel consists mostly in the narrator debunking the narratives of Ramatoulaye in So Long a Letter. For instance, the narrator says that Ramatoulaye lied about the fact that the house she and Binatu stayed in the village to mourn the late husband is his. The narrator claims that the house belongs to him, instead, as Jude and Ramatoulaye did not build a house in the village. Okay? Discourses and counter-discourses. Note, your account of the burial rites and of the other issues are only a figment of the imagination of a deluded mind. Most of the things you wrote in your letter never happened, especially during Jude's funeral. I could sue you for the half-truths. Accusing, I said it, he has accused Ramatoulaye of lying, telling lies. Okay? So at the point we ask, who should we believe? Who will believe our story? All right? The narrator claims that what actually irritated Ramatoulaye about Binatu's presence at the funeral is that Binatu is more attractive than her. Okay? Not that she didn't want to stay with her in the same room, but she didn't want to stay with a woman who is more beautiful than her in the same room. Right? Is there any truth in this statement?
No.
All right. So guys, is there any truth in the statement? The culture allows the man to marry up to 4 wives. according to the narrator. So patriarchy prescribes polygamy in the African tradition. The issue of one man, one wife is modern European culture or modern European Christian culture. Okay? In traditional African culture, polygamy is prescribed. The narrator claims that Benatu really mourned her husband, Modufo, better than Ramatoulaye. Ramatoulaye derailed Jude's focus in life shortly after marriage. That's what Andrew's saying. Most of you are not taking down notes. It's like you're unhappy with this author. What is writing? Okay? This is an academic exercise. Don't take it too personal. All right? All right? It's scholarly exercise. So just keep some distance so that you not get hurt, right? You not be hurt so bad. So Andrew claims that after Ramatoulaye has had a say, so let Andrew have his say, right? Good, that's how it works. So Ramatoulaye derailed Jude's focus in life shortly after marriage. Right? Like some ladies do that. They come into the man's life and they say, everything has to change. It has to be this way from now on. Okay? So she changed his focus, like including religious faith. Because she is from the Muslim culture, she tried to push Jude into the Islamic religion. The narrator subscribes to polygamy, says, I recommended polygamy. I joined in the belief that if men married many wives, the problem of women will be minimized. All right? The problem of the woman will be minimized. We are introduced to Oche, O-C-H-E. We are introduced to Oche, O-C-H-E, who is the narrator's great-grandfather. He married 7 wives. Oche married 7 wives. Have you heard that? Yes. Oche married 7. The narrator claims that the Old Testament church did not forbid polygamy. Amen, someone? No amen. So are we not in agreement? The Old Testament church did not forbid polygamy. Right? Is that true? No one is saying anything. And that in Islam, polygamy is prescribed. That in Islam, polygamy is. I remember David did not have 1 wife. Remember that Solomon did not have 1 wife. That's the Old Testament church that he's talking about. Right? Okay. So the narrator describes Ramatoulaye's values as confused. The narrator describes Ramatoulaye's values as confused. And this intertextualizes with how Charles Nolan describes gender configurations. How Charles Nolan describes gender configurations in Africa as genus face. This intertextualizes with how Charles Nolan describes gender configurations in Africa as genus face. This is where we end our class for today. See you again when the sun goes up.